broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studios in Houston, Texas. It's time for Houston Business Radio. Now, here's your host.
Excited about my guest today, Cole Napper, VP of Research, Innovation, and Talent Insights at Lightcast, a globally recognized voice in labor market intelligence, people analytics, workforce planning, and talent intelligence. Cole's led people analytics functions across brands like FedEx, Toyota, PepsiCo, Texas Instruments, and Grainger, and he advises HR tech startups on applying Gen AI to real business problems. He's also the principal behind Directionally Correct, the #1 people analytics podcast and newsletter, and the author of People Analytics, Using Data-Driven HR and Gen AI as a Business Asset. From translating talent data for investors to building skill-based organizations, Cole's work flips HR from cost center to profit center. We're digging into the fault lines shaping the future of work, geopolitics, AI, and demographics, and what leaders should know. Cole, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Trisha.
Yeah, so you didn't know I was going to do all that, did you?
No, that was quite the mouthful.
Yeah, it was. Well, I'm super excited about having you on the show today, Cole. Why don't we dive into who Cole is? So tell us a little bit more about you.
Well, I think first of all, and I hope you guys won't hold this against me, but I'm based in Dallas, and so I know there's the Houston-Dallas rivalry, but don't hold that against me. But so I have a background with a PhD in industrial organizational psychology. As you mentioned in your intro, I've been working in the people analytics, talent intelligence, labor market space for over 15 years, and been at a variety of large multinational companies. Now more of a research capacity for, again, Lightcast, kind of the global leader in labor market intelligence and skills for organizations. And I get to do a lot of really cool work. And then again, recently released the book 2 months ago called People Analytics. And so really excited to talk to you today, Trisha.
Yeah, fantastic. I love it. So tell us, let's dive into a little more detail around Lightcast. What services are you providing and the customers that you're supporting?
Yeah, so Lightcast, the company formed about 20 years ago. So we're the longest standing labor market intelligence provider. And depending on the type of organization you are, we support it in different ways. And so we got our start working with higher education and the public sector, so municipal, state, and federal level workers, trying to understand and bring about in the education sphere, tying the curriculums that universities have to the jobs that are being hired for in the labor market. In the public sector, it's about making the locations in which you reside desirable for investment by organizations into the talent and skills located in the area, and even being able to, get organizations to invest in the area. Like we do a lot of work now with organizations that are trying to attract data centers and the things like that, or regions that are trying to attract that. And then for big organizations, it's about understanding the skills of their workforce, investing in things like how is AI going to transform your workforce in the future, and looking at, what is the supply and demand levers and how are they impacting organizations' ability to attract talent, develop them, and upskill them for the jobs of tomorrow.
Okay, so first off, we're not going to hold it against you that you're in Dallas. I was actually born and raised in North Texas, so it's okay. We can still be friends.
You can't even call it Dallas. You can only call it North Texas, just to be diplomatic.
Well, I do. And, my mom is the biggest Cowboys fan on the planet, and we always try to root for the home team, which has not been very much fun the last couple of years. So, okay. Lots of technical stuff there, but before we even dive into, Cole, like the technical aspect of what you're doing, what do you find are the biggest fault lines in the labor market right now, and how should we actually interpret them?
Yeah, this is a huge question for organizations, and so one of the things I've been kind of out on a speaking tour lately that I've been talking about is every organization, again, the ones I mentioned earlier, higher education, public sector, and private sector kind of enterprise organizations, is every one of them is experiencing at least one of these three fault lines, and sometimes two or more. And it is, how are geopolitics affecting the labor market and their ability to acquire talent? Are you having supply chain disruptions? Are tariffs impacting you? Are interest rates impacting you? Is immigration impacting your ability to hire? All of these things that historically, we've kind of taken for granted. It feels like the ground is shifting beneath our feet while we're trying to operate. And so that's why we've been using the metaphor of fault line. The second is AI disruption, right? Many jobs, especially white collar jobs, right now, people are asking the question, can an AI do components of this job, maybe particular tasks or even whole end-to-end processes as good or better than a human being? And so AI disruption is cutting across the workforce in a variety of capacities. And the last is labor shortages. And if you think about healthcare, construction, manufacturing, and manufacturing, especially kind of overlaying with the geopolitical component, a lot of reshoring is going on right now in the United States. It's cutting across a lot of different industries and sectors. And the ability, well, I think most of us are used to the ability, if you make a job postings, that you can just go hire someone and they're going to have the skills and they're going to accept the wages that are available. And one of the things that we're seeing with the retirement of baby boomers and Gen Z entering the workforce is a much smaller generation than prior generations. We're having labor shortages for the first time, basically since the Industrial Revolution. And so this is a really challenging time for organizations, and the labor market is right in the center of those issues.
Yeah, I think all of this is really resonating. I know with me in particular, and those who are the broader part of my audience who's listening today. So we talked a little bit, or in your intro, about cost center versus an actual investment, right? Or profit center when we talk about HR. So can you dig into that a little bit?
Yeah, when I think about, if you took a business 101 class, one of the things that you would learn is, try to maximize revenue and minimize overhead, right? And one of the things when you think about traditional HR, it has always been considered a cost center, i.e. overhead. And so traditional business 101 playbook is you want to minimize that as much as possible. Now, one of the kind of the burgeoning trends that you've seen over the last 15 years or so is how human capital is a key differentiator for organizations. And so that kind of goes in the face of, well, this is just overhead. This is something you can minimize. Perhaps it is a competitive differentiator for businesses. And so one of the things that I've been challenging I've been challenging businesses themselves and the HR functions in two different ways. One, the HR function is saying you need to move from being a cost center to a profit center. And to do that, you have to show the value of the human capital that you're bringing in, that you're upskilling, that you're training for organizations. To organizations themselves is they need to recognize the value of that human capital and invest in it as if it's a key differentiator for that organization. And so this is sort of a mindset shift that's been going on for quite some time. But with the introduction of generative AI into the equation, I think a lot of people have felt sort of in a tizzy about this. It's like, do humans still matter? What role do they play? And so what I did is I went systematically through everything that HR does. And I show, here's how you add value with it today, pre-generative AI. And here's how it's going to continue to add value with generative AI into the equation, just to give people a playbook of, hey, this isn't something you need to be scared of. This is something that you can be proactive and be an early adopter and really show that this is a key differentiator for your organization.
Yeah, so that playbook is really important. I think there are still people out there, Cole, who are afraid of AI and don't know exactly what it is. So what would you suggest as like a first step to getting comfortable with we all know what AI means, but do we know what it actually is? So where would you start if you were,
But AI is a weird technology in the sense that I've been using this example of like a pencil never taught you how to write, but AI can teach you how to use AI. And as far as I know, it's the first tool that can ever do that. So the thing I would tell people is just open up any AI application and ask it, teach me how to use you. And the funniest thing will happen is it will actually give you examples of how to use you, right? And you could watch a YouTube video or anything on how to, But actually, the funniest thing about it is the easiest way to learn is just by opening it up and typing in something much like a Google search to say, how should I use you? And it will respond. And the funny thing is it'll be pretty good. And so the interesting thing about AI versus kind of prior technologies, think about like computer programming or learning a foreign language or something like that. The barriers to entry for those were so high in terms of adoption. The barriers to entry are essentially just the ability to type and having verbal and literal fluency to do these types of things. And so I think that AI is the funny thing is it's going to teach you how to use it.
I love that. Like this weight has been lifted off of my shoulders, and I'm sure other people are like, oh, well, I never thought about that. And if you're using a tool that doesn't have a chat in it, as so many of them do now, they're integrated, then go ask your chat tool how to use the new calendar AI tool or some thing that you've now decided to play with. I love that. What fantastic advice. So you've talked about I've seen you write about micro AI versus macro AI. What's a practical roadmap leaders can follow without chasing shiny objects?
So this is such an interesting point, and the point I made a second ago was what I would call micro AI, and what that means is many most organizations are their leaders are saying we want to encourage AI adoption. Right now, at least if you're a big organization, white collar workers, a lot of people are getting these messages, hey, go and build AI capability and skills. And then they ask the reasonable next question is, what does that mean? Right. And so what the simple version of what I've been calling micro AI is just going in and learning how to use these tools yourself as a human being or as a team or even as a function. And it's just saying, this is local to me. I'm going to build my own capabilities. And that's great. And there's nothing wrong with that. However, there's this kind of counter narrative, which is many executives, when they're talking about making investments in AI, they're not talking about micro AI. What they're talking about is what I call macro AI, which is the ability to bring AI in to understand a business process or build an entirely new technology or a new operating model or a new workflow end to end with AI at the center of it. And that takes a completely different skill set. It takes coordination amongst many human beings. And it's not the same as just using a chatbot. And so the confusion I see lies in, managers, when they're talking to their teams, they're saying, hey, let's all go get upskilled on ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever the tool of choice that their organization is. And executives are saying, yeah, but that's not what we meant. We meant that we wanted you to we're making $1 billion investment as a company into AI to tackle problem XYZ for our organization. And we're going to completely fundamentally transform our work. And so one of the things that I've been talking about lately is AI workforce transformation is going to be one of the hottest business initiatives in 2026. And if organizations are wanting to understand that, companies like Lightcast can help. And so in the book that I wrote is going to be kind of what I would say a primer to understanding how this is going to impact your workforce over time. I think this is going to be one of the hottest issues over the next year or two.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, tell us the name of your book again, Cole.
Well, the short version is just people analytics. The long version is people analytics using generative AI I should know this. Let me look at it. If you edit this out, using data-driven HR and generative AI as a business asset. Sorry, I got my tongue tied for a second.
No, that's good. So where can folks find that book?
Anywhere books are sold. I think Barnes & Noble even has them in physical locations as well. But anywhere online, you can find it.
Okay, fantastic. You guys, if you go online looking for the author, it's Cole Napper, ColeNapper. So you can find that book. Cole, I know that people are already ready to connect with you, want to have a conversation, see what you're up to. How can they connect with you best?
Yeah, the best way to get in touch with me is colenapper.com, as Trisha just spelled it a second ago. You can find me on LinkedIn. And if you're interested in any of the work that we're doing at Lightcast, you can also look at lightcast.io, our website as well.
Fantastic. You guys know I'll put that in the show notes. So if you're sitting in front of your computer, you can just point and click and get in touch with Cole right away. I'd like to jump into, because you've been talking a, a lot about a lot of things in this labor space. What for those people who are listening, Cole, what's something practical where they can start to use the types of systems that you're talking about to hire the right people and get the right people on the right team doing the right things?
The thing I would say, going back to the fault lines here for a second, is I would go back and I said, the like geopolitics, AI disruption, labor shortages. Not every organization is experiencing all of them, but every organization is experiencing at least one of them. And so the first thing I would say is, which of these are you experiencing? And then I would say that's going to lead you to the resources that organizations like Lightcast can provide. We have so many materials about helping organizations with labor shortages. We've been talking about this for years, even before, this is becoming a hot topic right now, but we were talking about it, showing that this was going to become a hot topic because we are always very forward-looking organization. We've been doing research into AI ever since generative AI came out in 2022. So we have a lot of resources around that and how that's going to impact, again, that AI workforce transformation I was talking about earlier. Geopolitics, frankly, is a newer one for us. And I think it's newer kind of for the globe, frankly. But we have a research report coming out in February called Fault Lines. It's going to be hundreds of pages long. It's going to dig into these things. And we already have many, many resources internally for organizations that we already work with that are experiencing geopolitical kind of conflict. So imagine just for a second, if you're an organization, and again, I used data centers as an example earlier, you're thinking about, well, I'm considering these 10 cities about putting a data center. What variables should I look at to see if they have the available workforce in these 10 cities? Lightcast has you covered. Or if you're an international organization, you're saying, we have invested heavily in manufacturing in country ABC, and that country is not getting along with the United States anymore. And we're thinking about moving it to countries, C, D, and F. And well, guess what? Lightcast has data on all of those countries and can guide you and say, here's what you would need to make the right investment into the right part of the world, or where to reshore it in the United States as well. And so we're doing that work constantly. And so depending on the type of organization you have, we can help in all of those circumstances.
Fantastic. This is very interesting. I know you're doing some community work as well, which is why you have the some of these opportunities to talk to people. One area is your podcast, Directionally Correct. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I started my podcast back in 2021, so it's about 4 years old. It's focused primarily for the geeks of the world that are very interested in these subjects. So not as broad an audience as yours, Trisha, but I talk to the leading experts in the world in the field of the things that I've been talking about, from multinational companies, higher education, leaders in the government who are doing this type of work. And they get to talk about exactly what that means in practical, real world terms and help guide folks in the future. And I reference many of those episodes in the book as well. So it's been a great resource to give me real world use cases about how this applies outside of my own career, where I have a lot of really good examples as well. And then I also write a lot of really provocative articles in my Substack newsletter that's under the same name. And again, we get to use those as fodder to talk about on the podcast as well. I like to say it's edutainment, meaning we like to crack a lot of jokes. We have a lot of fun, but it's also very educational if you're interested in that field. And I think that's why it's kind of separated itself from the pack in terms of other folks that are talking about this space.
Nice. So you guys, if you're interested, that's Directionally Correct. I think I know that you're running some people analytics meetups. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, in terms of giving back, one of the actually two organizations, the Society of Industrial Organizational Psychologists, which is called PSYOP, and the Society of People Analytics called SPA. For both of those, I've been involved in the community function. So I actually lead the community committee for SPA. And that helps with meetups, not just around the United States, but around the globe. I actually started the People Analytics meetup in Dallas-Fort Worth in 2018. So it's been going for about 8 years. I've helped Chicago. I've helped Denver. I've helped Nashville. I've helped Atlanta. I've helped Houston even, actually, which is funny enough. And so I know the leaders down in that meetup as well. And so if you're ever interested in getting involved in those, if you're in that space, feel free to reach out to me and I can get you connected with the right people locally.
Yeah, fantastic. I love that. I love everyone who gives back. I mean, if we're going to go out into the world and have a business and ask people to engage us, then we should be giving back to that same community. And thank you for doing that. And it's such interesting work that you're doing. So something's bubbling up for me when it comes to AI and labor. And the question here is, how do you balance personalization, privacy, and even bias mitigation when you're deploying AI across talent decisions, humans? Yep.
Well, I think that I talk about this to a great extent in my book. There's a famous slide from an IBM slide deck in 1970, not talking about AI, I was just talking about the introduction of computers. And it said, computers can't make decisions because computers can't be held accountable, right? And so fundamentally, my belief stays within that vein, which is we should be helping AI to help humans make decisions better, but we should not be allowing AI to make decisions without humans in the loop. And I think that is a key distinction. So some organizations are trying to affect change by putting AI to kind of automate decisions. I think that is a bad idea. I think that's going to be a hard to legally defend idea in the future as those lawsuits start to come up. But I think AI is probably the best resource that's ever been created about giving people broad access to information across the spectrum to make decisions themselves. And again, it has problems around hallucinations. If you ask it a question, it doesn't know the answer. It doesn't say, I don't know. It bluffs you and it says, here's the answer, even if it's made up, right? Now, those are problems. And so I would always check secondary sources if you're trying to make a key decision, making sure that the data it's providing you is correct. And frankly, it cites sources like Lightcast sometimes, and sometimes they're actually right, and sometimes they're made up. And so, go to the core source of data if you're looking to do these types of things. All that said, I'm very, very pro AI. think it's going to be a positive force in the world, but ultimately human beings need to stay key decision makers as we move forward.
Yeah, I love that. And you said something that really resonates with me that I've heard before, which is human in the loop. So when I say that, or when you say that, how does that apply to, and I know you talked a little bit about it just now, but how does human in the loop apply to the business owners that are listening today that are implementing AI solutions?
Well, I mean, I think a key example from the HR human capital space is hiring. Should an AI hire someone without a human in the loop? Or fundamentally, should a hiring manager always be the person who fundamentally makes the decision on whether someone is hired? AI can be used to understand the candidate better, to parse their resumes, to, some organizations even do things like video interviewing and those types of things. And AI can help supplement that in terms of saying, this might be a good candidate, this one, wasn't as good. But fundamentally, that decision should always reside with the hiring manager, and that's going to be the most legally defensible decision at this moment.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for taking us a little deeper in that. So I want to jump back over to Lightcast. Tell me the types of clients that you're working for. So if people are listening and they're like, ooh, this sounds really interesting, tell me about the types of clients that you're working with.
Yeah, I mean, we work with the largest institutions in the world. So 67 of the Fortune 100 companies are our customers. If you're in the public sector, we're working with the Federal Reserve, the World Bank, the International Monetary Forum, like all of these major multinational institutions. In higher education, we're working with most of the leading higher education institutions in the country, as well as thousands of community colleges as well. So any kind of form of higher education, even online learning institutions as well. And so any of these organizations, these are who we're working with. We work with the state of Texas, the Texas Workforce Commission. I think we work with the city of Houston. I'd have to double check that, but we work with many cities around the state as well. And so we are deeply embedded in the community, in addition to working with many global organizations.
I love that. All right. So as we get to the back end of our conversation, one last question, Cole. If a leader wants to make one decision this quarter, let's just call it first quarter, if they want to make one decision in first quarter that materially improves talent outcomes and business performance, what should it be? And how will they know that it actually worked?
Now you're asking me the hard questions. Well, I would say my cop out answer is it's going to depend on the type of business that you run.
Sure.
But let's say, for the sake of argument, that this is a business that has a key thing like AI disruption going on right now. I would say you should be understanding the work, your workers, and the types of work that is getting done early in this year and making those investments. And I would frankly say you should probably start out by piloting some of those investments so that you don't overcommit and then it doesn't end up working out. But once you've done the pilot, you darn well better be measuring the results to see if it's having the intended impact. And then if it is, you should roll it out more broadly. And so I would think that would be a really key result that many organizations are going to be facing in early 2026.
Yeah, fantastic. Cole, thank you so much for being with me today. This has been a fantastic conversation.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Tricia.
All right, you guys, Cole Napper, he is the host of Directionally Correct and also the author of People Analytics, Using Data-Driven HR and Generative AI as a business asset. Cole, I appreciate your time today and can't wait to have another conversation with you because I'm really interested in all of the things that you said today. I want to dig deeper.
Yeah, we'll have to come back for a part 2 at some point.
Yeah, I would love that. All right, you guys, that's all the time we have for today. If you found value in this conversation that I had with Cole, please share it with a fellow entrepreneur, veteran, or Houston business leader ready to grow. Be sure to follow, rate, and review the show. It helps us reach more bold business minds just like yours. And your business, your leadership, and your legacy are built one intentional step at a time. So stay inspired, stay focused, and keep building the business and the life you deserve.